Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Ben, and today we are going to be out testing the E2 Fat Tire e-bike from Windone. Huge thanks to them for sending this out to me to test, but that is where the pleasantries end because we're going to rip this thing hard on some single-track mountain bike trail to see if this thing performs as good as it looks. We'll do some nasty hill climbs to test the 500-watt motor. We will do some big jumps to test the long travel suspension. We'll get a visit from my friend the Grouse, as well as a few other dump critters. And make sure you stay tuned to the end because as we're riding, I will be making some adjustments to see exactly what I can get out of this bike. And hopefully by the end, you'll know if it's the right bike for you. This is probably one of the coolest looking e-bikes that I've reviewed. Let's see what we've got on here for components. I believe there is a 1000-watt version of this, but I've got the 500-watt here. It's a 48-volt. We've got 20x4 knobby tires here. Fairly aggressive tread pattern. I'm not seeing a brand name on them, but the tread pattern and tires themselves look fairly similar to what I've seen on a lot of these bikes. We've got the cast hubs here, which will add a little bit of weight. We've got 180 millimeter drilled rotors, which is definitely a positive. RSX hydraulic calipers, which is also definitely a plus. These are something that I've used in the past, and they are definitely a good brake. With that 180 millimeter rotor, they should have enough stopping power. We've got little adjusters here. You just turn that little Allen head fastener and that will adjust when these actually engage. Rubbery grips and a rubbery quarter twist throttle, 7-speed Shimano shifter. That is fairly common on these. We've got a color display that I have not seen, as well as a control pad that I've not seen. We've got lights here. What is that? It looks like, I think, the information button. Cycle through a couple different things on there. Full rubbery grip on this side. Not the most comfortable or grippy things, but not the worst either. Fairly small plastic fenders front and rear. Dual crown forks that do look like they have a little bit of adjustability. We've got preload on the right and also preload on the left, which I suppose makes sense. Just dual preload, no compression or rebound damping adjustments. The suspension in the rear does have a preload adjustment. It looks like it is backed all the way off, so if you were to thread this in that way, it would compress the spring, and then you'd be able to carry a little bit more weight, which might be good if you want to stick a passenger on the back of the seat, which does seem fairly squishy. Headlight is also something that I've seen before on other bikes that I've tested. It definitely puts out a nice beam pattern and has a very nice cutoff like you saw on the wall. Taillight is really pretty cool looking. It's got a reflector below it and a spot for a license plate. And the taillight is also a brake light. Shimano tourney derailleur and 7-speed cassette. So I will throw a leg over this thing to give you guys an idea of how it might fit you. I am 5'10", I've got a 31-inch inseam height, and I weigh about 155 pounds. As far as pedal stroke on the back seat goes, seems like I might be able to put a little bit of power down. Not really mountain bike territory, of course. It's just not really the style of the bike. So I think that kind of makes sense. I think this is more a bike that you ride than pedal, which is totally fine with me. If I scoot kind of down towards the front, I would say this is probably not a place that I would want to sit very long. I guess you probably could stick a passenger on the back, maybe a light passenger, and maybe go this way for a little while, but again, I really wouldn't want to pedal it from here. As far as getting to the ground, I do have to maybe slide over a little bit, and then I can put 1 foot flat. Can't really quite get to from the back. Suspension definitely seems a little bit bouncy. I guess maybe I will end up increasing that preload. Not super torquey. Takes a little bit to build up, I think. Not the most powerful thing. 1,000 watt would probably be my preference. Should burn a little rubber though. Definitely not a huge amount of turning radius due to the dual crown forks. We'll see if that causes any problems out on the road or trail. A little bit too heavy, I think, to get the tire spinning with the amount of torque that we've got, but I guess we'll see how it works out on the trail. Let's get it loaded up and see what it'll do. So we will start off in gear 1 on the shifter, pedal assist level 0. So this is essentially just like pedaling a bicycle, just a 80-some pound bicycle. And honestly, with the rather low first, it does take off fairly easy. I think the 20-inch tires will help that out a bit. And seems like you can actually get a decent amount of speed going, surprisingly. I guess maybe we're going downhill a little bit. But this thing is obviously not meant to be ridden as a pedal bike, although I'm surprised it doesn't seem that bad. But we will put it on pedal assist 1 and see what the throttle will get us here. Okay, so the throttle the throttle and the pedal assist levels are not linked. That's just going to take me all the way up to 25. So how about if we just pedal 8 miles an hour-ish. Pedal assist 2. Up to gear 3, doing almost 13. Pedal assist 3. Going up a couple gears, starting up a hill. 17-ish. Pedal assist 4. And I think that's about all the more useful pedaling I'll be able to do. We're at a pretty decent cadence. I could certainly see pedaling like this all day, but I think once we go to pedal assist 5, that's going to be a little bit too fast for the size of the chainring on the front. I guess if I was really looking to get some exercise, we could certainly do this, but that doesn't sound like much fun, so you can just as easily ghost pedal, because this does have a cadence sensor, meaning that it's just checking to see if the pedals are spinning, and if they are, well, then it sends whatever pedal assist level power you have to the motor. If you don't really do any off-road riding, having the throttle and the pedal assist level linked really isn't a big deal. It's kind of nice to be able to set cruise control, but without it, you can just adjust your speed with the throttle as it is. Intuitive as far as where you have it rotated. It's not just on off. Let's see what we can get for 0 to 60 here. So we'll start off on pedal assist level 5. I will give it throttle. I will pedal it a reasonable amount. Ready, go. 20, 22, 24, 25, 26. Well, it's supposed to do 28, isn't it? 27. Going uphill maybe a little bit. Where's 28? I messed around with the settings in here a little bit and I couldn't find a way to unlock it, but yeah, it seems like that's all we're gonna get. And the on-road handling definitely feels a bit motorcycle-ish. You're definitely kind of over the front end, and I don't know, definitely feels good. On the gravel, I would say things feel pretty darn stable. Definitely feels a bit like a little electric motorcycle. Certainly a lot of bounce to the suspension. It seems like maybe we're lacking a little bit of damping, but it sure makes for a cushy ride. Seems to hang on just fine on the corners. And I'm going to have to remember that these are set up sort of like motorcycle brakes, other than the fact that this should really be a clutch lever, but instead it is the back brake. And the right side is at the front, which seems to work all right. And with the dual crown forks and the sort of wide frame, we don't really get a whole lot for turning radius, but let's see what it'll do. Yeah, it certainly turns around just fine on the road. Other than the noise from the tires on the pavement and now the gravel, it seems like a very quiet bike, and even though it's early on, the brakes definitely feel good, which of course I would expect since these are RSX. Not too sure how this thing's gonna feel off-road in the gnarlier stuff, but I've got to say I kind of don't mind the extra weight, and I think that sort of contributes to the motorcycle-ish feel. And with a giant steel tube frame, I think that's just something that's gonna be something that happens. I mean, all that metal adds up, and it sure does look cool, but certainly makes it a little bit heavier than most of the bikes this size. Oh, here's some bumps. Oop, and some water for the camera. Yeah, it chatters a bit over those bumps. You know, it definitely seems like we could use a little bit of rebound and compression damping, which is basically just fluid moving around through some orifice to sort of slow that bounce down from the springs. Well, this is definitely a bit of a aggressive riding position. I suppose not all that different from a mountain bike, just that my legs are a little bit more crunched up. And I've got to say, I guess I don't mind it as much as I thought I might when I first got on it, but of course we've only got, 6-ish miles on, so I suppose we'll see what happens a little bit closer to the end. Yeah, I think if my legs were any longer, this would probably be a little bit uncomfortable, and it's certainly not, I think, something that I would want to pedal around for exercise or pedal around all day. And I assume, like I said at the beginning of the video, that they pretty much just put the pedals on here so they can call it a bicycle. I think it's really meant to be ridden more as a moped style e-bike or electric motorcycle or whatever. The pedals are just your cover so you can get away with it. But that being said, I mean, they do still work. It is a functional bicycle. I think maybe slightly higher handlebars might be a little bit more comfortable, but I think they're more going for style than they are comfort or performance or anything else. And it does seem to hit that. It looks a heck of a lot like the slightly more powerful bikes without pedals, if you know what I mean. And if I scoot up to the very front of the seat, it doesn't really feel like a place that's meant to be sat on, to be honest. It's a bit like faux leather covered plastic. So I mean, if you had to ride around with a passenger on here, I'm sure you could do it, but it would not be with a immense amount of comfort. Now things are going to continue to get bumpier and bumpier. It looks like we did drop a bar on the meter, which could just be voltage sag from running it kind of hot. Just the slight uphill in the gravel seems to be keeping us down a little bit. I suppose I could do a little pedaling. Sometimes that gets you an extra mile an hour or two, but doesn't really seem like it on here. Guess I could engage the pedals a bit and help it out. Yeah, it seems like it has a hard time reaching and holding 28. Oh, a little rough. Yeah, a little bit jarring if you're on the seat, which, of course, if you have ever been on an off-road motorcycle, you know that when things get rough, you certainly don't want to stay on the seat, so I guess I can't be too surprised by that. Standing up definitely puts you right over the front tire. And it seems like this makes things much more comfy. The bumps aren't near as harsh. You guys won't be able to see the bike at all since most of it's behind me. Summer's in full bloom here. Woo! Wow, the forks really shoot down. They must not have any sort of isolators on the bottom, because when you're in the air and those forks have been compressed and then I bounce up, of course they just go shooting back down, and it seems like they don't really have a whole lot to keep them from snapping out to full extension. Yeah, it seems like 25 is about all you get, at least with one bar down. I gotta remember which is which. Easy on the right side. And 24, let's see how the brakes do. Ooh, yeah. Well, the brakes definitely can keep up with the weight of the bike, that's for sure. Oh boy, I have to go through the jungle to get to the trails today. Oh boy, jungle is right, yikes. Only got 15 or 20 ticks on me now. Ooh, and it has been storming again, so hopefully we can get through here. That was there before. That one's new. Oh, 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 oh. I'm pretty sure it's the deer keeping this open for me, which is nice. Awfully nice of them. Let's see what some two-track feels like. Definitely bobbing up and down a bit, but certainly feels plush and comfy. Whoa, lots of sticks. I wouldn't say that it's too much bounce, but I think maybe you could do it with a little bit less. And full throttle, only doing about 17 up the hill, so this is not something that you're going to be really tearing around on. The looks are a little bit deceiving, I think, as far as that goes. We'll pop up in the air, though. Check our turning radius on the tight trail here. Most of the time I can do this, and yeah, today I pretty much cannot. Alright, let's see if this thing's off-road looks transfer to some off-road trails, some way off-road trails. Yeah, I definitely feel the weight of it, but honestly it does really handle quite well. Whoa! The suspension, I think, definitely, like I've said a couple times already, could use a little bit of slowing down, but as far as the actual overall feel of the bike and how it handles, really not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think I would much appreciate a 1,000-watt motor on the back rather than a 500. It's just kind of a lot of bike for only 500 watts, but doesn't mean you can't ride it or enjoy it. And it's not like it's a very expensive e-bike, so if you just want something that looks cool and want something to pedal around a little bit and use the throttle most of the time, maybe do a little bit of off-road riding, this can certainly do it, just not with a whole lot of high-speed action. I don't think that is the same one. The plumage, I feel like the plumage looks different or something.
Not how this works. You're supposed to fly away and be terrified of it. I'm supposed to be checking around. Look at you. What's going on?
Well, I gotta say, I think this probably handled that better than most of the other bikes that I've had out here, so I guess all that suspension's good for soaking up the really gnarly stuff. And it really does carve through this stuff pretty nice. It's got, like I guess I said earlier, just kind of a good motorcycle-ish geometry, and certainly gives me confidence to launch it off of stuff that I normally wouldn't be. Front end maybe feels a little goofy, and yeah, it sure does slam down once I pull the weight off of it, but I gotta say, it is fun. Ooh, and noisy. Whoa, and maybe a little undersprung. Definitely underdamped. Woo! Gotta keep those brakes straight. Oop, hi, Chipmunk. It's about time to test the pedals out. It looks like that's a good thing. I might have to take a shortcut to get back home. We're down to 3 bars already. And this is where it's going to come in handy that I'll be able to use the throttle independently of my pedal assist level settings. So gear 3, pedal assist 4. That's going to get away from me a little bit too much. Of course, we can just give the brakes a tap and that'll cut the motor. Yeah, pedaling off-road, I would say works. Again, a little bit awkward on the seat. Kind of get bounced around and bounce off the seat a bit too. Do like that, all that suspension travel. Yeah, standing up and pedaling is very tiring. I think mostly just because I can't really support myself with the bars at all. I have to support myself completely on the pegs. I'm just sort of hanging out on the bars. Of course, if I had mountain biking legs, that might not be a problem, but since I got dual sport legs, it is. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and skip the pedaling. Ooh! Ooh! So we gave those each 2 cranks. Yeah, that definitely seems like it'll help, but upping preload is really only going to increase your weight carrying ability. It's not really a great thing to sort of calm suspension action down. Woo! It's also going to shoot that front tire down faster. Seems like maybe I could use a little bit more in the rear as well. Ooh, wow! I really glided over that nice though, man. Guess maybe I shouldn't have spoke so soon. We'll have to dial that rear in and see what happens. So essentially what I'm going to do is just turn this nut here up that direction onto the threads, and that will be compressing my spring more, which is considered preload. So we are preloading the spring with pressure. We went about halfway. Let's see if that helped. Yeah, it certainly feels a bit more solid, which now I'm essentially, possibly, I guess, lost some suspension travel by increasing that, which of course you don't want, because you want your full range of travel. You just don't want to bottom it. And you, of course, want to have that a controlled descent and ascent when you're coming back up. But yeah, I would say that, whoa, almost lost the front there. I would say that that did certainly improve things. Of course, being a little bit stiffer now on the smaller bumps and out on the road, things are going to be, well, stiffer. But as you saw, it's not too hard to switch it back and forth. So if you really wanted to, you of course could switch it back and forth. What happened? Momentary dip in power there. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly rip it on these trails. I'm a little bit hesitant to jump it, but it doesn't seem too darn bad. Those brakes definitely work good. I think I could have maybe turned this one out just a little bit more. It's kind of too close to my fingers to get 2, or I guess really just 1 finger on and still have enough clearance to pull it all the way for the amount of braking power that I need. But I think if I were to adjust it out a little bit, I think they would actually work pretty darn good for that. And of course, I like having as many fingers on the bars as I can, because I'd like to keep control of the bike while also being able to bring it to a halt. Look at all those flowers. Beautiful. Hello. Hello. All these mosquitoes are just awful. What did they say?
Oh, they asked about the grouse.
Oh, because they saw it too?
They didn't yet. They're wondering if we saw it.
Oh, because people know about it or what?
Yeah, I guess they do. Well, they have seen it before.
Oh, okay.
They're kind of freaked out by it, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it did go after me. Ooh, look at these trails. I love being out here. Woo. Yeah, it really does. I don't know, just kind of weaves through these nice, and it is nice and quiet. Ooh, and I know I said that out on the road, but out here it is also incredibly quiet as far as the motor and everything goes, but just the suspension and really everything in general is just, I don't know, kind of nice. It's something that I really appreciate about the e-bikes is that everything is just kind of quiet, and you can just be out here ripping through the woods, but also still hear nature. I gotta say, as awkward as I thought this was gonna be standing up on it, riding through the woods, or I guess back when I was out on the road, I really thought it'd be a problem, but honestly it kind of puts you right where you need to be on a bike like this in trails like this, which is with your weight over the front, so you're not breaking traction around the corners when you go to lean it. Yeah, with that suspension turned up, I think I would still appreciate a little bit more compression and rebound damping, but it certainly does take those nice. I was actually looking on the website before we took off here, and I did not see the 1,000-watt version of this. I'm kind of wondering why it's in the little pamphlet, but maybe they're just still working on that one. This sure does feel good. I wish it had just a little bit more snap. Yeah, it is definitely nimble, and kind of surprisingly so, because as heavy as it is, you'd think it'd be kind of, I don't know, a little bit hard to flick around, but honestly, I think this is probably one of the best handling, at least 20-inch tire bikes that I've had out here. It just really kind of does feel like it's meant to do this stuff, which I know is a bit at odds with what I was saying before, but apparently if you crank the preload up, it does help enough to make it kind of behave itself a bit more. Let's see what this thing can do up the hill. Got quite the hill going in the dump there, yikes. It's massive. So I'll be just on gear 1 on the shifter, pedal assist 5, and we'll see what happens. I'm guessing this is going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, definitely need to add some power. Not sure that the motor's doing a whole lot. I'm sure it's helping, but definitely a bit of a challenge for the 500-watt motor on here. So it looks like we've got about 13 miles on. We've still got 3 bars of battery left, so we'll see where we get. Woo, that's squidgy. Tires have a little bit of a hard time hanging on that stuff, but mud is a little bit hard to do without giant knobbies. Otherwise, the tires really have done, I think, a pretty darn good job of hanging on. No complaints. Oh, hello, dear. Yeah, it just doesn't have the snap that you need to really pull the front end up to get over obstacles like that. You ready for a shortcut? Sure. You might have to go in the woods a little bit to get around a tree.
Yeah, this one.
Okay. And now that we're down to 3 bars, it seems like maybe we cut a little bit of power, so the throttle's not really doing a whole heck of a lot for me. Suspension definitely eats up this though. Woo! But yeah, I mean, we got a pin and I'm only doing 17. The seat, I've got to say, is surprisingly comfortable still. Really didn't think it would be, but it does feel just about wide enough that it just kind of feels a bit like a dual sport seat to me, which is certainly nice. Ooh, I found the mosquitoes now, huh? Yeah, certainly handles the off-trail stuff well. And now we're down to 2 bars, and yeah, I can definitely tell that that throttle is modulated down substantially compared to what we started off with, and that is, of course, intentional and programmed in to essentially just extend your range. So you got kind of a hot rod to begin with, and then as you go down and suck the juice out of the battery, it allows you to take less and less at a time, essentially. All right, now it's time to see how she handles the big jump. Woo, certainly does good in the little one. Woo, certainly does good in the little one. Oh yeah, not bad at all. So I just hopped on the other bike that my dad's on. Ooh. And I've got to say, this thing definitely does feel like it's set up for this a lot more than I think the majority of at least the smaller tire bikes that I've been on. This way. The wider bars, the sort of fact that you're just over the bars when you're up on the pegs, the fact that the pegs are nice and wide, really all makes for a pretty good riding experience on this. And of course, this isn't, absolutely purpose built for this. Of course, if you spend a couple $1,000s and get a real e-mountain bike, it's going to be better. But I mean, this does feel like a little mini electric motorcycle, and I mean, honestly, for the price, if that's the sort of slot that you're looking at, woo, around $1,000, I mean, it's definitely not the worst thing to be on out here, and I certainly had a good time on it. Definitely would appreciate a 1,000-watt motor, though I think that would make this thing just a riot and a lot better of a bike. What a beautiful day. So there is something sort of funny that I noticed about this, and that's the fact that if we knock the pedal assist level down and I'm on the throttle, which again will get me to whatever this thing will give me now as far as the top speed with the 2 bars of battery that I've got. But if we're doing, say, 20 miles an hour pedal assist 2 and I start pedaling, it actually overrides the throttle and just uses the pedals, which I guess I must have just not ever used them both in conjunction off-road. And I suppose that really doesn't matter. I mean, you could easily just stop pedaling and go to the throttle if you need help going up a hill. Again, it wasn't an issue that I noticed off-road at all. It's just something sort of odd that I noticed now. So if I stop pedaling, then all of a sudden it'll take off. So, I mean, it's, I guess, I don't know, it could be useful if you know what it's doing, I guess. We've got 18 miles on, and I do not have that far to go to get back to the vehicle, so we're not going to run this dead. I'm pretty impressed, honestly, with as heavy as this thing is, that we got that many miles out of it with that intensive off-road riding. I mean, you look at the numbers that any manufacturer of these bikes puts on their website, and they're really the very best case scenario. Light rider, no stops at all pedal assist. So I mean, it's the absolute max that you could ever get. So I wouldn't expect to get 48 miles doing anything but that, really. But I'm gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with the 13.5 amp hour battery or whatever it is. I mean, as heavy as this bike is, it, I suppose, just doesn't give the motor that much power. So it just ended up kind of conserving it, which is nice for a longer ride. I've got to say, really, in general, I want to like this a lot more. I mean, it's such a good bike as far as, I mean, it's really built. It's got great components as far as the brakes go. It handles so nice, but just the fact that it doesn't have, I guess, the power to back up all the looks and the suspension and to go along with them. I mean, I think if this thing was torquey, if it had, I mean, you don't even need a higher top speed, even if it would only do 20, but would really get there quick. I mean, I think this thing would just be an absolute blast. I mean, I think the build quality of it seems maybe a little more solid than it needs to be, but I mean, it's definitely a cool bike. Just could use a little bit more power. Other than that, though, I gotta say, I really do like it. And I mean, if you're okay with that, and you're looking in this price range, I would say I don't really have any complaints about it, other than the 500-watt motor. So if you guys were interested in picking one of these up and you want to help support more videos like this, I would definitely appreciate it if you check out any affiliate links or discount codes that I can offer you down in the description, in the more section. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care, stay safe, stay swanky, get out and enjoy this beautiful world any chance you get.